what does it actually take to coordinate a trillion artificial brains?
I mean, it sounds like a premise from a science fiction novel, right?
Totally. But to answer that question practically, you first have to, well, you have to look backward.
Right, you have to look at the mechanics of how a single nation lifted 800 million people out of poverty.
Exactly. It really forces us to ask this question. When you turn the dial all the way up, past the scale of a normal startup, past a typical corporation, how do you engineer outcomes that fundamentally alter the trajectory of the planet?
It requires an entirely different operating system for your mind. I mean, you have to strip away conventional wisdom, completely ignore public opinion, and just relentlessly focus on the physical and digital mechanics of reality.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer managing people or, writing simple code. You are architecting massive, self-sustaining ecosystems.
And uncovering the hidden mechanics of that scale, well, that is our mission for this deep dive. We have a really heavy-hitting stack of sources to pull from today.
We really do.
We're looking at a recent Y Combinator interview with Scale AI founder Alexander Wang. We have the legendary investor Charlie Munger's detailed analysis of China's economic rise, and we're balancing that with a highly critical editorial by Peter C. Krell.
Right, which focuses on the physical climate realities of artificial intelligence and this massive push for photonics.
So we're tracing a very clear line here.
Yeah, going from the ultimate physical scale of nation building to the dizzying exponential scale of digital superintelligence.
And finally hitting the hard physical planetary constraints that might bring this whole revolution to a screeching halt, if we don't change our underlying infrastructure.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It is.
Okay.
Let's unpack this, starting with the physical world. Because to understand how to scale our digital future, we have to establish a baseline for what massive scale execution actually looks like in the real world.
Right.
And our sources point us directly to Charlie Munger's analysis of China. But I think it's important to frame how we're approaching this for you listening.
Absolutely, because this gets sensitive fast.
Exactly. We have to strip away the intense geopolitics here for a second and just look at the raw math of what Munger was observing as an investor.
Yeah.
We are absolutely not taking a political side, and we aren't endorsing any specific government or ideology here. We're strictly looking at the objective engineering of these economic outcomes, exactly as Munger presented them.
That framing is essential. Because Munger himself, he didn't care about the political dogma. As a lifelong American capitalist, his ultimate metric was simply, what are the measurable results?
Right. Does it work?
Exactly. And the results he observed led him to call China's economic rise one of the most remarkable human achievements in the history of the world.
Which is a massive statement.
It is. According to the World Bank data he referenced, over the past 4 decades, China lifted 800 million people out of extreme poverty.
I mean, the scale of that number is almost impossible to visualize. 800 million people.
Exactly.
That is more than twice the entire population of the United States. It's roughly the population of Europe, transitioning from agrarian poverty to a modern industrialized economy in a single generation.
And to understand the mechanics of how they actually pulled that off, Munger points to a massive operational pivot in 1978.
Right, under Deng Xiaoping.
Exactly, because before that moment, China was largely isolated and very ideology-driven, but Deng introduced a completely different operational framework. He famously captured it with this one quote.
Oh, the cat quote, right.
Yes, it doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice.
I love that. It's the ultimate pragmatist's playbook.
Yeah.
He essentially told 1 billion people to just drop the philosophical debates.
Yeah, stop arguing.
Right? Like if a specific policy creates jobs, builds roads, and grows the economy, you use it. You catch the mice.
Which led to a system they called socialism with Chinese characteristics, because they didn't blindly copy the Soviet model, but they also didn't just copy America.
So what do?
They actually looked at the mechanics of a much smaller country, Singapore. Under Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore had transformed from a resource-poor island into this remarkably wealthy financial hub.
And they did that by blending incredibly strong centralized governance with fierce free market competition.
Exactly. Deng visited Singapore, saw the actual gears of this system working in real time, and basically decided to scale that exact blueprint to a massive nation. What's fascinating here is Munger's observation about the mindset of the people executing this blueprint.
Okay, what did he notice?
Munger noted that modern Chinese leadership didn't behave like typical politicians. He said they behaved more like naval admirals or engineers.
Wow, naval admirals. That distinction, acting like an engineer rather than a politician, That completely changes the approach to problem solving.
It changes everything. I mean, a politician debates the optics of a problem. An engineer approaches national growth as a strict systems architecture problem.
They look at the economy and ask, where's the exact bottleneck, right?
Yes. What specific physical limitation is slowing down trade? If it's a lack of transport, they don't spend a decade debating the zoning laws of a train line.
They just engineer the solution and scale it instantly.
Exactly. That is the physical mechanism behind how you get thousands of kilometers of high-speed rail, massive modern airports, and entirely new power grids deployed in such compressed timeframes.
It's remarkably similar to running the supply chain for a massive global tech startup.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, because if you are managing global logistics, you don't sit in a boardroom debating the philosophical merits of a shipping container. You just ask the brutal practical question, does this actually work?
Right. Does this route get our microchips from point A to point B faster and with less friction?
Exactly. Munger's basically saying they ran the economic development of 1 billion people with that exact same brutal supply chain pragmatism.
And for you listening, this is a really powerful lens to apply to your own execution. We operate in a world totally saturated with noisy narratives, where people spend all their energy arguing about how things should be done in theory. Munger's takeaway is that whether you are investing billions or just managing a team project, the only metric that matters is the measurable outcome.
Are you spending your energy arguing about the color of the cat, or are you actually designing a system to catch the mice?
Exactly.
So keep that exact engineering pragmatism in mind, because we are about to see it applied to a completely different domain. We're moving from scaling physical concrete and steel to scaling digital intelligence.
Yeah, this is the leap.
And our second source, Alexander Wang, is an absolute masterclass in finding the hidden bottleneck.
Wang's trajectory is the perfect case study for this. He grew up in New Mexico doing high-level math competitions, ends up taking a gap year at 17 to work as an engineer at Quora, and goes to MIT at 18.
Just a completely normal childhood.
Right, totally average. But by 19, he drops out to start a company. And the interesting part of the mechanics here is actually his failure.
Wait, really? His failure?
Yeah, his first idea at Y Combinator was an AI medical agent designed to help consumers navigate healthcare.
Which sounds like a great idea today.
It does, but this was years ago. He's building this with YC partner Jared Friedman, and after a month, Friedman basically pulls the plug. He tells Wang the timing is dead wrong.
Ouch.
But Wang, employing that engineering mindset, doesn't get defensive. He abandons the idea and goes back to the drawing board using first principles thinking. He wanted to find the actual bottleneck in the AI industry.
And this requires understanding how AI was actually being built at the time, right?
Exactly. When Wang was at MIT trying to train early AI models, he realized the ecosystem relied on 3 pillars: compute, code, and data.
Okay, so compute, code, data.
Right, and compute wasn't the bottleneck. You could easily rent server space from Amazon. Code wasn't the bottleneck either. Frameworks like Google's TensorFlow had just been released.
Which essentially prepackaged the complex math required for machine learning so anyone could just download it.
Exactly, but the data, that was the invisible wall.
Because an AI doesn't just magically learn how to drive a car by reading TensorFlow code.
No, it needs to look at millions of specific edge case images of stop signs, pedestrians, traffic lights.
And every single one of those images needs to be meticulously labeled by a human being so the algorithm knows what it's looking at. There was no button you could press to get that scale of highly accurate human-labeled data.
Wang recognized that building the logistics network to acquire and label that data was the true bottleneck holding back the entire industry. So he pivoted to create scale AI to solve that exact mechanical problem.
What's wild to me is that data labeling was considered incredibly unsexy at the time.
Oh, totally.
It just sounded like a massive, grueling operational headache. So when Wang pitched scale AI to venture capitalists, they rejected him.
They totally missed the bottleneck. They didn't understand the mechanics of why highly structured data was the fuel for the entire AI engine.
And now, of course, those same VCs are writing desperate think pieces about how proprietary data is the most valuable asset on Earth.
It perfectly validates his first principles approach. You can't build a foundational business by reading the consensus in the news. You have to understand the underlying mechanics of an industry, develop conviction about a bottleneck nobody else sees, and just execute until the market catches up to your reality.
Which brings us to the staggering scale of what Wang is doing right now. He's currently at Meta running a zero-based build of a frontier AI lab, and they are moving at exponential speed.
Yeah, they just launched LlamaSpark 1.1.
And Wang points out that it performs on par with leading heavy-duty models like Anthropic's Opus when it comes to agentic workflows, but it costs 8 times less to run.
Just to clarify the mechanics there for you listening, an agentic workflow is a massive leap from how we use AI today.
Right, because right now, most people use AI as a chatbot. You ask a question, it types an answer.
Exactly. But in an agentic workflow, the AI acts as an autonomous agent. You give it a high-level goal, and it breaks that goal down, opens other programs, searches the web, triggers actions, evaluates its own work, and corrects its mistakes until the goal is achieved. It's doing the work for you. And Wang even offered the YC audience $1,000 in free API credits just to get them building these agents. Because here's where it gets really interesting. Wang outlines a vision of the future where the core skill of humanity fundamentally shifts.
Yeah, this is the paradigm shift.
He argues we are rapidly moving away from the era of writing code. The new baseline is orchestration.
Right.
You won't be managing a team of 10 human developers. You will be managing continuous feedback loops powered by an army of 1 million, eventually 1 trillion AI agents.
It's a complete inversion of how companies scale. Historically, the absolute limit on human progress was the friction of organizing large groups of people.
Right, communication breaks down, bureaucracy sets in.
But Wang envisions startups becoming what he calls mecha Goliaths. A tiny team of 3 or 4 humans, supercharged by millions of digital agents, operating with zero friction, completely outcompeting traditional, slow-moving corporate monopolies. But wait, let me push back on this for a second. If a tiny team with 1 million AI agents can do the work of a massive corporation, aren't we engineering our own obsolescence?
That is the fear, yeah.
Wang even mentioned in the source material that the number of computer science majors at Stanford has dropped significantly. People see the writing on the wall. There's this whole debate online right now about whether we should all strive to be word cells, meaning the communicators and writers, rather than shape rotators.
The highly technical spatial engineers, right, because the AI can just do the engineering for us.
Exactly. So what's left for us?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Wang's response is actually deeply grounding. He completely rejects the idea that rigorous engineering is dead.
Really? How so?
He argues that shape rotating, which is really just a proxy for deep structural systems thinking, is more vital than ever. I mean, you cannot orchestrate 1 million autonomous agents if you don't fundamentally understand systems architecture.
Oh, I see. So the naval admiral mindset Munger talked about, that is exactly what you need to command this digital fleet.
Precisely. The abstraction layer has just moved up. You aren't writing the granular lines of code anymore. You are designing the massive feedback loops.
Right.
Wang argues that intelligence itself is becoming an abundant, cheap commodity. Therefore, intelligence is no longer the scarce resource. The truly scarce resource of the future is vision and ambition.
Vision and ambition.
Yeah. It's having a deep internal compass. If you have 1 trillion digital workers ready to execute any command, the only thing that matters is the quality of the command you give them. Do you have a highly detailed, coherent vision of what the world should look like in 10 years?
It's like Wang is saying, we are about to have a fleet of 1 billion digital Ferraris at our disposal, and our only job is to figure out the destination and steer.
That's a great way to put it.
But this brings us crashing into the physical reality check provided by our third source, Peter C. Krell.
Yes, the reality check.
Because Krell steps in as the mechanic and says, look at these billion Ferraris. They are beautiful.
Yeah.
But we are completely out of gas, and the exhaust from these engines is going to choke the planet before we even get out of the driveway.
It is such a vital critique. Krell argues that Wang, and Silicon Valley at large, has a massive blind spot when it comes to the physical infrastructure required to power this exponential curve.
You just cannot scale 1 trillion AI agents using our current hardware framework.
Exactly.
Let's clearly define what Krell means here. And again, we want to neutrally present his arguments about the global economy and climate, just like we did with Munger. Krell's main target is our reliance on what he calls CMOS algebra systems.
Right. CMOS is the foundational architecture of almost every computer chip we use today. It relies on pushing physical electrons through microscopic silicon gates to process information.
But physics dictates that when you push electrons through a medium, they encounter resistance, right?
Exactly. And that electrical resistance generates heat.
Massive amounts of heat. When Wang talks about orchestrating 1 trillion agents, that requires giant data centers filled with tens of thousands of these silicon processors running constantly.
And to prevent those chips from literally melting, Data centers pump millions of gallons of water through cooling systems.
Which brings us to Krell's core argument. He asserts that the primary obstacle for the entire global economy, and that includes the continued scale of China's growth that Munger praised, is global climate change and resource scarcity.
We physically do not have the power grids or the fresh water required to cool the silicon engines needed for Wang's Mecha Goliaths. The command bandwidth of silicon is simply maxed out.
So we don't just need more servers. We need an entirely new physics for the engine itself. And Krell points to photonics.
This is the mechanical shift Krell is championing. Instead of using electrons moving through silicon, photonic computing uses photons, particles of light, moving through optical channels.
And the mechanics of why that matters are mind-blowing. Photons have no mass and no electrical charge.
Right.
They don't experience resistance in the same way.
Exactly. Because there is virtually no resistance, there's almost no heat generated. Krell emphasizes that a shift to photonic AI computing doesn't just mean faster processing. It fundamentally operates with zero water consumption for cooling.
Zero water consumption. That's incredible.
It bypasses the physical heat bottleneck entirely, costing less over time and allowing for vastly wider parallel processing.
But Krell points out this isn't just a fun hardware upgrade. It is a geopolitical necessity. He envisions a scenario where a central innovation force, and he specifically points to Europe as potential leader here, could forge a unified climate declaration around this technology.
He's advocating for the creation of what he calls hybrid systems. The goal would be to unite small and medium enterprises with massive global corporations under a shared open standard of high-performance, climate-efficient tech infrastructure.
He argues we need a shared global model for this new infrastructure. But instead, he observes that nations and tech giants are acting out of fear, building closed, competitive bunkers to hoard compute power.
This raises an important question, one that Krell lays bare. Can we actually negotiate open global standards in today's incredibly fractured geopolitical climate?
It is immensely difficult to align international security, diplomacy, and corporate IP around a shared technological baseline.
But Krell's warning is that without tech unity, without a collaborative shift to sustainable photonics, the global economy hits a hard physical wall. We simply won't survive the resource strain of silicon-based exponential AI.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize this massive journey for you. We started by looking at the staggering physical scale of China lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty, driven by Deng Xiaoping's strict pragmatism.
Right. They abandoned endless philosophical debate in favor of pure engineering-led execution.
We then saw Alexander Wang apply that exact same pragmatic, bottleneck-finding mindset to the digital realm.
He solved the brutal logistics of data labeling to unlock AI, and is now architecting a future where intelligence is abundant and the only limit on scale is your own vision and ambition to orchestrate armies of digital agents.
But Peter C. Krell provided the ultimate grounding mechanism. You cannot scale digital superintelligence infinitely if the underlying hardware burns down the physical planet in the process.
True scale requires addressing the hard, unyielding laws of physics through breakthroughs like photonics.
To navigate what is coming, you really need to integrate all three of these frameworks. You need the ruthless, practical execution of a nation builder, you need the exponential, system-level vision of a frontier tech founder, and you need the sober, physical reality check of a hardware engineer looking at planetary constraints.
The ultimate takeaway for you, as you look at your own field, is to cultivate that internal compass Wang talked about. Find the steepest exponential curve in your industry and apply rigorous systems thinking to it.
But never ignore the physical, real-world constraints of the board you are playing on. Don't get trapped arguing about the color of the cat. Engineer the system to catch the mice, but make sure you aren't melting the server farm to do it.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over, building on that idea of abundant intelligence.
Okay, what is it?
If Wang is right and intelligence becomes cheap, leaving human vision and ambition as the only truly scarce resources left, well, what happens when these personal AI agents become so deeply tailored to our psychologies and so incredibly capable of pattern recognition that they start generating better, more compelling visions for our future than we can? When the AI itself starts setting the ambition, who exactly is deciding which cat is the right one to catch the mice?
When Alexander Wang plays his master game, he builds with fire that the earth must sustain, yet turns from light that bears no tarnished name, the path of light that drains no earthly rain, no thirsty system drinking deep and long, no river spent to cool the burning thought, while photons dance in swift endeavors strong, in a efficient grace that will become Earth's final sword. Let AI lend its hand to forge anew. New algorithms all born of living light, that think beyond what silicon can do and break the bounds of algebra's old might. For light-born dreams give way to a broader command band than basic chips could ever represent.
And yet we're all caught up in the same
insane global AI game. The east doth arise with force and fierce intent, yet one foe stands that no domain may tame. Not trade nor tech, but skies too deeply bent. The climate's wrath shall be its only shame. The scaling photon-driven AI's flame becomes not luxury but breath and bone, a question of survival's very name for nations who would not be overthrown. And Europe, watching from her ancient throne, shall stir and answer when the light is clear, that competition's edge may yet be sown as seed for cooperation drawing near. Where rivalry once bred the swords and shields, now mutual need may clear the battlefields.
And yet we're all caught up in the same
insane global AI game. Let Europe stand as innovation's heart, where hybrid systems first shall bridge the old. The marriage born of photon and of art, to fold the future into present hold. The long design
to reunite the earth,
from corner shop unto corporate hall, beneath one roof where merit finds its worth and climate goals command the care of all. Let declarations rise, both bold and new, a climate pact inscribed with common hand, where every nation finds its place and due within a greener, efficient and uniting tech band. Let leaders speak to include big tech, lend its voice. Let shared survival be the world's first choice.
and yet we're all caught up in the same
insane global AI game. But lo, what vision springs from leaders' tongues? Not unity nor shared in greener way, but bunkers built beneath the earth unsung, where fear entombs what hope might once survey. Build bunkers, lure outshines the open sky, where reunited worlds might stand and breathe, where tech sustainability might tie the threads of peace that nations long to weave. For tech unity, if but embraced as creed, might be the bridge to world peace, yet unseen. But bunkers feed on isolation's greed, while light and shared creation fade between.
oh, that the greater vision found its voice
And made the open earth its only choice.
and yet we're all caught up in the same
insane global AI game. What open standards might be here defined? What newborn skills shall rise to take their place? What diplomatic threads must be entwined when security frames this photonic race? Can multilateral hands
so long opposed,
find comfort in a pact,
so wide and deep,
while global economies
by storms enclosed?
still struggle upward from their troubled sleep? When nations weigh the path that must be trod, and borders blur where once they stood apart, can trust or fragile hold them to the soft, or will suspicion conquer every heart? The road is long,
The challenges are vast,
but unity may yet outshine the past.
and yet we're all caught up in the
insane global AI game.